In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make your own sidewalk on a budget. And the best part is, I'm going to explain how to do it while my father-in-law Mike does all the work.
Here's another project we're going to try starting on today. Working with the weather, we're going to put a sidewalk in between the house and the shop because these little stepping stones are not doing it. So we'll see how it goes.
To make the forms, Mike's using 2x4s cut to the length of the sidewalk. Now these don't have to be new boards. As you can see, some of these are old boards we just had lying around.
So now we're making the board long enough to reach across there.
And as you can see, he's just splicing these together with smaller pieces of 2x4 and 3-inch screws.
1, 2.
Now they do make really long 2x4s, but this is an easy way to save money.
12 foot 4 inches.
Then obviously, he's going to need one of these for each side of the sidewalk. When you set forms for concrete, a lot of times you'll use a level to do that. But this sidewalk is going between two slabs, and because of that, they're just making sure the top of the forms is flush with the two edges. And as you can see, they're having to dig out the ground a little bit to do that. Before he sets the other side, Mike's throwing in a couple stakes to hold this one down. They'll stake the rest of this down once the other side's in. Now you will notice that he is using a level on this other side. If the forms aren't level between those two sides, there's not really a lot you can do about it if you're trying to match the edges of those slabs. But if it's too far off, you can tweak one or both of the sides to get them a little bit closer. And that's why they didn't stake that other side down completely yet. And once the forms are even all the way down, they'll go ahead and stake them into place. These stakes are just sharpened 1x2s. Now you'll notice they're cleaning out some of this dirt along the edges, and that's going to allow the concrete to be a little bit deeper in these areas. The deeper the concrete is, the less likely it'll crack or break, and you can just use a level or a board to make sure that there's no high spots in the center. And if there are, just dig them out a little bit. And I recommend at least 3 inches deep on this concrete.
We got our forms all ready. We put some drainage pipes in there because the way the water flows around, like I mentioned earlier. So we're going to start mixing concrete by hand and see how it goes.
Before you start mixing concrete, I highly recommend finding a calculator to determine how many bags of concrete you're going to need. This one seems to be a pretty decent one for me. It's called calculator.net. You can just type in the length of your slab and make sure you change this over to feet or inches, whatever you're using, and then make sure you put your appropriate width in there, and then the height of the concrete in inches. Then once you do that, you can hit calculate and it'll tell you how many bags you need. And as you can see, we need just over 24 60-pound bags or just over 18 80-pound bags. And I recommend getting a couple extra so you don't have to go back to the store mid-pour. Now time for the real fun. And if you're mixing this by hand, a hoe works best. But you can also rent concrete mixers pretty cheap. As you can see, they're pouring the concrete kind of high, then just leveling it out between the two forms with another board. They'll come back and do the fine finishing here in just a minute. For now, the goal is just to make the top of the concrete even with the top of the forms. In case you're wondering, it really doesn't do much good to add rebar to a sidewalk like this. All it really does is add time and cost to the project, and a normal sidewalk like this doesn't really need it. Okay, so once we get everything poured and everything's mostly evened out, we can pull out our finishing trowel. And when I say we, I mean Mike. And as you can see, he's making somewhat of a fan motion and using the trailing edge of the trowel. And with this really light, gentle motion, he's eliminating all the bumps and imperfections. If you push too hard, you're going to have a lot of lines in your sidewalk. After you've gone over the whole sidewalk, allow it to dry a few minutes and come back and do it again. Allowing it to dry between movements can help eliminate those lines as well. Once you're happy with the finish, allow the concrete to set for a little while. How long you wait depends on the temperature and the wind. The concrete needs to be able to stand on its own, but you still need to be able to shape it. Next, he'll gently pull back these forms and use an edger trowel to gently shape these corners. When you're rounding these corners, be careful not to dig too deep into the concrete. You're just gently shaping the edges. Now if the concrete starts getting too dry, you can use a little bit of water on the trowel to soften things up a bit. Hey, that's actually starting to look pretty decent. Now he's eliminating the line from the edger trowel.
Okay, well here's our pretty finished product on the sidewalk we did. Turned out fairly well, and it'll keep us out of the mud.
And I think it turned out pretty good as well, don't you? As you can see, this took a little bit of work, but we saved quite a bit of money by doing it ourselves. And it's always a great feeling when you've built something with your own two hands. Or in my case, my father-in-law's own two hands. Now, in case you're wondering why Mike built today's project instead of me, it's because I'm currently out of town right now for work, and maybe I'll explain that more in a future episode. But for now, I thought you guys would like to get a video while you're waiting on me to get back. And maybe I can convince Mike to show up in a lot more future episodes. You know you want to see those jean shorts again, and maybe I'll make myself a pair as well. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button for me. And if you did, you might like this one as well. Oh, that is delightful.
Subscribe.